once you know something, you can't unknow it. So some of this knowledge, this health and wellness knowledge, or even some of the more, call it natural law, sacred knowledge. Again, once you know these things, you never unknow them. You can't unknow it, and it just makes I don't know. It makes the more truth that you seek and the more truth that you find. And I don't mean that in a religious way. I just mean it in a human way. It really does make it easier to go through life and not be so angry and irritated.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges, the brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is John Gusty, and we are going to be talking about seeking the truth for oneself in the fields of health and wellness. First, I'd like to invite you to visit my website, theexplodinghuman.com. Over there, you can listen to episodes, read synopses, see photos of my guests. There's a little bio on myself. There's also a YouTube channel where you can listen. That is The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. As I said, my guest today is John Gusty. John lives in Tennessee, near Nashville. He was in the music business for a very long time. And when his wife was diagnosed with MS, he began a long, challenging journey to deal with the medical community and the medical industrial complex, as he likes to call it, in finding solutions for her health as well as improving his own health. And he has spent many years seeking the truth for himself in terms of food, water, air, all the things that affect us as human beings. And he is very dedicated to getting that information to as many people as possible. John has a lot of knowledge in these areas from his own personal responsibility that he has taken for his own health, which he encourages us all to do. So here he is. This is John Gusty. Good morning, John, and I'm happy to have you on the show. And what a lovely little chat we had before this. I'm happy to have you here.
Well, man, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You started out in the music field, and as did I a little bit, in bar bands, not real, not, commercial, popular folks or even counterculture folks, but I played. So I get the music thing, and you transition out of that into more about health and truth and things that a lot of people are curious about. So I want to hear that story and what prompted that transition for you to do that. And I'm sure you're still in music too in some way. But
oh yeah, no, I'm probably always going to be that 14-year-old kid in the record store. I mean, around the age of 13, 14, that's kind of when I caught the music bug. I was flipping through my one of my uncle's record collections and saw things like, the first Zeppelin record and, and then just go, oh, what is this? And I really caught that bug and wanted to be that. And so I lied my way into my first job at a record store in Tempe, Arizona. At the age of 14, said I was 16 and never really stopped going to the record store. I ended up later in life managing record stores, did about 15 years with Tower Records. Prior to that, I worked for Peaches Records and Tapes, Turtles Records and Tapes. And then later in life, when I was, and that whole time I was playing in bands and going through record labels and touring and doing that whole thing. And then later in life, wife and kids come into the picture, and I stopped trying to be a rock star and started working for them and helped. I live outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and I've helped a couple of business partners start up record labels and got into some artist management, and just kind of, I guess at the at the end of the day, I've always been a creative. I really love content creation. So I can, I just honed my skills at video editing, audio editing, graphic design, web design, just tried to make myself useful in any way that I could, and just kind of became like a jack of all trades. And it was later in my professional career, when I had more, I guess, what I would call upper level corporate gigs, that I started to see just how orchestrated the entertainment industry is. Again, I'm outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and a lot of music and entertainment infrastructure is based here. The Grammys office is based here and all. And just seeing how scripted and planned everything was, and watching artists who had these beautiful raw talents, when they're able to just be themselves, get discovered and signed, and next thing you know, they're being told how to dress, what to sing, how to sing, where to sing, and by the time their product hits the market, it's not even them anymore. It's a manipulated, processed product. And I think I don't think it's too far of a stretch. People can wrap their minds around that happens. It happens in the entertainment industry, but my wife, Dawn, we've been together well over 20 years. Met her. She's also a fellow music industry veteran. When I met her, she had been diagnosed with what she was told at the time was multiple sclerosis. And in full disclosure, she hasn't been able to take a step on her own for about 15 years. She's been confined to an electric scooter. And being the type of person that I am, she's my wife. She's my life, the other half of my life. I just plunged myself into trying to find out what was wrong with her and how do we fix it. And I've been a fairly healthy person my whole life. I don't have a whole lot of experience with the medical industrial complex previous to my wife's situation. And so I kind of dove into that with the same fervor and passion that I dove into the music industry, and came to find out real quick that the medical industrial complex is just as, if not more, scripted and manipulated and produced as the entertainment industry. In fact, I would say even worse, and the egos are bigger. I don't know if any of you listening have ever tried to have a conversation with anybody in a white lab coat with some letters after their names, like MD. And I think some of the most condescending conversations I've ever had with another human have been with doctors, like I've literally had doctors scoff at me and go, young man. It became almost a new passion of mine to fight against controlled narratives, be it in the medical industrial complex, be it in the entertainment, news, infotainment world. In order to be a healthy, balanced person and live a healthy, balanced life, you really have to spend a significant amount of time peeling away layers of the onion just to get to truth. And being a content creator, I started out life wanting to be creative and make music and art. And I'm later in life realized I still want to use those creative abilities. I just wanted, instead of writing songs, I want to write books. I want to make documentaries. I want to write essays. I want to bring news articles to the forefront that may have gotten lost or buried over time and memory hold. My passion is ultimately trying to keep the art of conversation alive. It's hard to have real conversation anymore and not get chastised or socially postured into compliance, and I just, the punk rock guy inside of me just can't lift my middle finger up high enough when conversation gets suppressed. And so that's kind of where I'm at in life, is just trying to be yet another voice out there that says, look, I am who I am, and you should be who you are. And it is totally okay to have conversations about anything. It blows my mind these days how many people that walk amongst us are afraid of words and mouth sounds and phrases and ideas, and we shouldn't be living that way as a people. We should be able to bring up any conversation, use any word, use any phrase that we want, and if someone is offended or bothered by that, well, then they can exit the conversation. But we live in a time right now, I think we're talking about this before the show, is I really think that there are far too many people walking around right now that honestly believe that they have a right, a basic right to not be offended or inconvenienced,
Yeah.
And it's like, that's offensive. That's offensive to me.
Yeah. So, and the most offensive thing is that I think there are many people that are looking to be offended. They want it. They want it. They're looking so hard for it, and then they can't wait to find it, because then, as I was pointing out to you, they get to be righteously indignant there's an adrenaline rush and a high that comes from it. That's why I say righteous indignation is the new cocaine. That's just my own feeling. But
I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, have we, in full disclosure, I'm 57 years old. I graduated in 1983, so I'm a child of the late 70s, early 80s, and I can look you or anybody else square in the eyes and go, look, man, I don't know that I ever have lived a day in my life. I mean, I was born into, our entire generation, all of us, me, all of our peers, everyone that is over the age of 30, I think, has never spent a day on earth when we don't know instinctively that the corporate structure, like politicians and corporations, have never been acting in our best interest.
Yeah. Well, the thing that really comes out a lot in this show is that you really have to advocate for yourself and do your homework and pay attention, because the cavalry's not coming. You're the cavalry. You've got to do it yourself. And one of the beauties of doing this show is that I get to bring people on that are not only are they questioning what is, but they're coming up with solutions that usually work better, or at least they're an alternative to, or an adjunct to, something that already exists. What I've discovered is, when I talk to a lot of people, I don't think there's some sort of diabolical, I think it's just a snowball effect. I think it starts, and then somebody's making money, and then people get pulled into these organizations, and then they become that mindset. I don't think there's a big meeting where they go, how can we fuck with people? I don't think that really goes on. I think it just sort of snowballed, and it's happening. And as long as there's money being made and the boat doesn't get rocked, it's perpetuated. That's how it feels to me. I don't think there's a boardroom at the AMA, and I might be wrong, where they're going, how can we bilk as many people and get as many surgeries as we can that are unnecessary and get these pills sold? Well, but there probably is in the pharma industry, actually. There probably is meetings like that.
We joke, but they're really, I mean, everyone has their own names for light and darkness. I mean, some people call it God and Satan. Some people call it, Buddha and Lucifer. Some people call it, Justin Bieber. I mean, whatever your name is for light or darkness, they're both real. And there are people who operate in light, and there are people that operate in darkness. And those people that operate in darkness, I've noticed there's a common thread that seems to run through all of the things that I notice as being dark. And there is an obsession. There's an obsession with race. There's an obsession with gender. And there's an obsession with sex. I don't believe that there's a big boardroom that they have annual meetings about how they can fuck with people, but I do think that the people who operate in darkness do tend to gravitate towards professions that deal with a lot of control and a lot of damage. Doing damage is energetic. I mean, I think there's whether or not you or I believe in these things, there are people that do, and they thrive off of dark energy.
Yeah, I wonder what the percentage of the populace is like that. And I like to believe, now whether it's true or not, I like to believe that people that vibrate on a higher level can counteract that. That takes less of those people to counteract that other stuff. But really, maybe to me, the majority of folks are somewhere in the middle and just not paying attention. I think, and that's where the danger lies. Is if you're not paying attention, you can be swayed in an area that is counterproductive to your own life and your own health and your own well-being. And that's where I think the important thing is to wake people up to pay attention and, ask questions. And if you're not getting the answers, go somewhere else and ask the questions. So I want to get back to your wife for a second.
Yeah.
Really fascinating to me.
It has been my experience. And I'm not claiming to have any special knowledge that nobody else has, but it's been my experience that the medical industrial complex creates these names. They call them diseases. And I don't, again, it's my experience that especially with MS and Lyme's disease, I think that those are categories, diseases that people get thrown into when the doctors don't have any idea what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah, well, and so they call it something. And I'll give you. I mean, this is a ridiculously silly example, but let's just say that you had an issue with you have a wall in your home, and you noticed it was starting to lose its integrity, and something was happening in there. And you call me. I'm a building specialist or whatever, and I come in, and let's just say the real problem is you have termites, and the termites are inside the wall messing with one of the structural supports. That's what's really going on. The medical industrial complex would tell you that you had, they'd make up some term. They wouldn't tell you that you had termites, that you would have structural integrity itis or something. They'd make up some term.
Yeah.
And they would give you, you'd have to radiate, there'd be some radiation involved. You'd radiate your wall. You'd maybe shoot some chemicals into they give you, they only have three tools. They're either going to burn you with radiation, they're going to drug you with pharmaceuticals, or they're going to cut you with surgery. Your problem with the wall would be dealt with. You'd be putting things on your wall. You'd be injecting things into your wall. You'd be radiating your wall. You'd be doing everything except treating the termites. And somebody that knew, Bob, what's really going on is you just have termites, and you got to get in there and you got to kill the termites, and your wall's fine. You don't have wall structuralitis. You have termites. And I think there's a lot. I don't know if that made sense, but like that's happens a lot. People get told that they have these conditions, and it's at the end of the day, it's a made up term. They do have something wrong with them, but what is actually wrong with them is not a disease. It's some sort of imbalance, or something is off, and you have to figure out what that is. And so I am not a fan of the medical industrial complex. Especially after the events of 2020, I am a huge advocate for the health and wellness world. I think that there is far more honesty. That first of all, the medical industrial complex does not allow for any creativity or individuality. It is a very scripted world. Doctors can't go off script. I've pushed it. If I had $1 for every time a medical professional in a white coat took me out into the hall and went, John, looking around, I've even had one instance where they had to bring their lawyer in to talk to me. They're like, look, I know what you're saying. I know, I get it, but I can't tell you this. I can't advise you. I can't counsel you on this. Because they put themselves in some sort of legal scenario and they could lose their license.
Sure, absolutely. I've had people on the show like that.
And there's a real fear of obviously the people that have, a lot of people have spent a lot of time, money, effort, and blood, sweat, and tears to be licensed to practice inside the medical industrial complex, and they don't want to lose that. But you get a lot more honesty, creativity, and innovation in the health and wellness world, far more than you're ever going to get inside the medical industrial complex.
Yeah. I mean, I've had success in both worlds, and I've had a lack of success in both worlds. But I feel like the people that talk to me the most honestly and spend the most time with me and want to get to the termites are more in the alternative world. But that is sometimes is a little hit and miss too for me, but that's where I go first, because when I think about, and what comes up a lot in this show is the root cause of a lot of things is based on some sort of inflammation in the body somewhere.
Inflammation is the cause of so many quote unquote diseases and conditions.
A lot of it's tied into a lot of different things, food and lifestyle and environmental causes and all those kinds of things that we have to start paying attention to, and even stress and attitude and perspective. It sounds very woo-woo to talk about it like that, but it really does seem to make a big difference for.
Well, yeah. I mean, and stress. Stress is a huge topic. A lot of people think stress is like, it's related to like, money and finances or, relationships or whatever, but the body is stressed. I'm a huge advocate for recognizing the circadian rhythm. The body, our human body works through solar and lunar cycles. I mean, if humans were living as they were naturally intended to live, we would be getting up with the sun, and we would end our day when the sun goes down. And there's the sun actually, it's a fascinating topic, but the sun actually changes colors. The sun, as it rises, is a different color. Then it goes overhead. It becomes more blue. There's more blue light there, and then it goes down, and it ends up a completely different color. It goes from red to blue to yellow to almost a white light. And all those color changes are the body is keying off of that. And so something very, very simple that causes a lot of stress is blue light, which blue light is what the sun is when it's overhead, when it's midday. The body is the most alert, awake, and all LED lighting, screens, LED lighting of any kind, it's all blue light. And so if it's 11:30 at night and you are in front of a screen and the lighting in your house is all LED, your body thinks it's noon.
Yeah, sure.
And it's going to be harder for you to fall asleep because that blue light is prohibiting melatonin production. And so a lot of people's sleeping issues are simply just their exposure to way too much blue light at the wrong times. And if they just change something that simple, they would see a massive change in the way that their body behaves. But there's a doctor isn't going to tell you that.
A lot of them don't know it.
Well, they're not taught it.
Yeah, I don't even think that comes up in medical schools. It's an interesting thing. I have a whole episode on light. A guy out of Australia named Daniel Ebbets, and he got very ill by being only in artificial light and not getting out in the sun and being around computers and all that stuff. And and doctors could not figure it out. They were giving him sleep medications, antipsychotics, all kinds of crap until he figured out that it was as simple as what he was doing to his body. So it's a great episode, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the best things I ever did was it was just start being aware of the light cycles. And when the sun goes down, I don't expose myself to any blue light. I will use candlelight, and I sleep in complete darkness. And a lot of people, I also have the luxury of, I live out in a rural area, so I don't have city lights and stuff. Yeah. Keeping it lit all the time. So I can have darkness, and we'll have people come out and stay with us. And I mean, just damn near every single person that's ever stayed out at our house comments on what a great night's sleep they got, because most people don't sleep in darkness. And out here in the country, when it gets dark, it's dark. And that is, again, to anyone listening that wants to take this stuff seriously, if you're having trouble sleeping, pay attention to the light cycles. Try even the smallest little LED light on a printer or something in your room is good. Those photons are hitting your skin, and it's triggering your circadian rhythm. And so, yeah.
So I guess some people are very sensitive to that, and others can sleep through it. But, there's also, it's an interesting thing about being in a rural area at night. There's I don't know how to describe it. The air itself, is like a blanket. It feels heavier, in comforting and heavier. I don't know why that is. Probably because there's no artificial stuff going on. But I've always loved that feeling of, I don't love camping, but I do like that part of it.
It's ions. I mean, you've got, same reason why, I think most people can relate to if they take their shoes off when they go and stand on the beach. You're just getting drowned in negative ions, which is really, really good. It's discharging, because we're like living, breathing batteries, and we are collecting charge all day long. And like right now, I'm sitting in front of a screen. I've got a microphone here. There's a light over here. There's electronics all around me. I'm absorbing all of that charge. And at some point, I need to discharge. And the only way you can discharge is to make natural contact with the earth, and you will discharge. And imagine how many people never discharge because they're wearing rubber shoes all the time. They may live in an apartment, three floors up, so they never actually touch the ground.
Yeah. Barefoot in the dirt. Nice way to go.
It sounds kind of hippie and woo woo. But I mean, there's a reason. Look at the bottom of a cat or a dog's feet. Those pads, those aren't there for fashion reasons. That those are their connection points. If those that have dogs and cats that can freely come in and out of the house as they want. Look at what they do every morning. Every morning they will go out. They will instinctively go outside, and they'll lay in the sun, and most always facing the sun, and they're laying there. They instinctively know what they're doing. They're getting their charge, their natural charge for the day. They're literally soaking it in.
I love watching my cat just pick a spot and sit, and I'm thinking, like, why is she there? Like, of all the different choices, she knows that's the spot she needs to be, and it is different at different times of the day.
She's following the light.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, again, they know. I mean, it's and I think instinctively we know too. It's just we're so
we know.
Yeah. We're just so conditioned and programmed with other things that again, you have to take time and peel away those layers of the onion. And once you it's kind of like, once you know something, you can't unknow it. And so some of this knowledge, this health and wellness knowledge, or even some of the more, call it natural law, sacred knowledge. Once you know these things, you never unknow them. You can't unknow it, and it just makes I don't know. It makes the more truth that you seek, and the more truth that you find. And I don't mean that in a religious way. I just mean it in a human way. It really does make it easier to go through life and not be so angry and irritated. because you can explain why things are the way that they are and why people behave the way that they do. I mean, I never throughout. I can honestly say, because of my wife's situation, and at the end of the day, her immune system has just been off balance probably since birth. So we've been playing.
I want to talk about water for a second, because I know you mentioned it in the one sheet that I got.
Yeah.
Let's talk about water, because it's what we're made out of mostly, and it's the building block for everything. And it's really water is that's the start of all of this stuff. What's going on with water, and what can we do to improve what that's all about? What's the best water to drink? Is there any water to drink? That's good.
Water happens to be one of my biggest passion subjects. Like you mentioned, we are mostly water, and it's intrigued me for a while now. Why are we not taught? I mean, from birth, we should be taught how to gather and collect water and store water, how to feed ourselves, and how to provide ourselves shelter. Those are three basic things that we should be taught from birth. Every other living organism is, you know what I mean? I mean, deer and birds and any other wild animal knows how to get water, how to get food, and how to get shelter. Why are we, especially with water, it literally falls from the sky and springs from the ground, but it bugged me years and years ago that, like, I considered myself this huge individualist, and I'm sovereign, and I'm independent, and I couldn't even get my own glass of water without some third-party commercial entity, facilitating that transaction.
Right, sure.
And again, why are we paying for water? Why is there a payment gateway between humans and water? That whole dynamic is interesting to me. Could it be that water is being used as a control mechanism, a delivery mechanism? Both. I would say yes. But as far as taking water seriously, I think it's probably one of the, if not the most important thing that we humans can do. It is mind-boggling to think that there are people out there that have probably never had exposure to actual clean living water. There's a lot of people out there that drink bottled water and think that they're doing themselves a favor, and bottled water is probably some of the most toxic water that is out there. But in my opinion, based on my life experiences and what I have done with my own body and my own family and those who will listen to me, is the best thing I ever did was make sure that, one, I got my own water. I dug a well, and my water comes from my ground, and I get it, and I distill every single drop of it. And we live in a distillation unit. I mean, Earth is a distillation unit. Water goes up, collects, and falls back down. That's distillation. And through that process, water is cleaned. Now, it would be great if the water falling back down was falling through clean air and not collecting all of the, particles and chemicals and stuff that are floating around in our air. But inside my house, I've got 2 water distillation units that are running at all times. And so I'd say for the last 7-8 years, every single drop of water that I've run through my body has been distilled. And distilled water is anything that is inorganic has a positive charge to it. Distilled water has a negative charge. So when you are drinking distilled water, I affectionately refer to it as, it's like a shit magnet. You are drinking it, you're taking it in, and it is naturally attracting the negative. Yeah, it's all that positive stuff is attaching to those water molecules, and you're passing it. You're either sweating it out or you're pissing it out. and so it's not only cleaning you, but you are also properly able to absorb it. A lot of, I mean, tap water. It would if anyone is interested, go get yourself a dissolved solid meter. You can get them off of Amazon for well under $15, and you could stick those little meters in a glass of tap water, and it should read zero. I mean, pure water should read zero. There should be no dissolved solids in there at all. But I mean, I would say most municipal, really any tap water is probably going to register in the 200-300 range. So people are taking, what they're doing when they're drinking tap water is they're drinking a lot of solids. Not all those solids are toxic, but all those solids are not leaving your body. A lot of them are accumulating. I could go down and show you. I mean, I collect all of the solids that I distill out of it, and I keep them in jars just to show people. And I mean, that is where stones come from. All stones in the body got in you via water. People are drinking water that is just heavy with dissolved solids, and those solids accumulate inside your body and build up, and that's clogged arteries. Those are kidney stones and any other kind of stone. That's all. A lot of it's calcium, a lot of it's salt, a lot of it's. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in water. You have to take the extra step to get all that shit out of your water so that you can take that water in. It will cleanse you from the inside just because of nature and science, and you will properly absorb it. And I mean, I've noticed a difference in my skin, in my hair, in my nails, in my mental clarity. I originally did it because I was very, very set on decalcifying my pineal gland. That was a kind of a little life experiment that I wanted to do years ago. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that topic is familiar to you or not, but it is the pineal gland sits kind of in the middle of our brain space, and it's a lot of people will over time it's been referred to as the third eye. Mm-hmm. And it is most people's pineal gland is calcified. And would it surprise you in the least to know that the number one thing that calcifies the pineal gland is hydrofluoric silicic acid, aka fluoride? And fluoride is in just about every water supply. I mean, a lot of water municipalities are putting it in there on purpose. It's actually a toxic residue from the aluminum industry, and there's a whole story there, late 40s, early 50s, when the aluminum industry got in trouble for dumping that shit, and they basically made a corporate deal with the dental industry and the water infrastructure, and now that stuff is not dumped; it's put into water supplies, and it's also put into people's mouths through the dental industry. I mean, if next time you're at the dentist, ask to see where they keep their fluoride, and it'll be in a biohazard. They'll have it back in a back room, usually in like a little refrigerator that'll have a biohazard sticker on it, and it'll be in a container that has biohazard on it. And yet they're putting that in people's mouths, and they're using gloves and everything when they're doing it, yet they're putting it in people's mouths. And so the whole topic of fluoride and the toxicity around that is yet you could do a whole hour just on that subject alone. But I wanted to decalcify my pineal gland. I had lived, like I said, I grew up around the Phoenix area, super hard water there, fluoridated to death. So I mean, I grew up just massive calcification, and it took years to decalcify it. But when I did, a lot more mental clarity, a lot of just the ability to focus, the ability to I don't know. You're a fellow musician. Have you ever heard, or maybe you can do it yourself, but like you've heard of people being able to see the notes, the different colors of tone?
The sort of the blending of senses.
Yeah, I
certain notes have color, or
I was never able to do that until I decalcified my pineal gland, and now I can see the different colors of the notes, and I can I can see and much more perceptive of people's, a lot of people will call it aura or whatever. You can kind of see,
the energy that's around somebody. And sometimes you can, I could never really see it visually, but I can definitely sense certain things. When you meet certain people and you go, ugh. Or, oh, this is nice.
And I do think that water is a great place to start if anyone wants to take back control of their health. And I would highly recommend looking into distilled water. A lot of people will say, well, distilled water is bad because it leaches, minerals from your body. Yeah, that's the point. It leaches inorganic minerals from your body that shouldn't be there in the first place. So it's a bit of a half truth when people will go, you stay away from distilled water. It leaches things from your body. Yeah, it is true, but they're not telling you the other side of that, which you need those things leached from your body because they shouldn't be there. They will build up, they will cause blockage, and they'll result in stones and other nastiness internally.
So many years ago, I got one of those on-demand water heaters, and it didn't last as long as I had hoped because the calcium really screwed the pipes up and the internal stuff. So I had to replace it, and I put in a calcium filter, and I changed the the cartridge in it once a year. And when I take that cartridge out, oh my God, it's black. It is so gross. And
imagine that. What if that got, a lot of people in your case, that shit was accumulating in that filter, but in a lot of humans' cases, it's accumulating inside of them.
Well, yeah, it made me sort of see. It's like if you ever, how when you cook bacon and then you pour the fat out from the pan and you go, well, you know what I mean? Like that's going into that stuff is going into your body, or just anything like that. When you think about what's the residual effect of the thing that I'm doing, and it's an interesting.
That's a whole fat is a whole other topic because we've been told that fat is bad.
Right, I know. and that is a whole other topic.
Back to the pineal gland and the brain. Our brains are literally made of two things: animal fat and cholesterol. And we've been told both of those things are bad. Our entire lives, it's been programmed into us that animal fat and cholesterol is bad. And honestly, that's what our brains are made of. So now if you're eating really shitty bacon from the grocery store that was, mass produced, that fat's probably toxic anyways, and you shouldn't be eating that at all. But if you've got real good animal fat, like I don't buy my food from grocery stores anymore. I stopped doing that years ago. I get all of my food direct from the source. If I can't do it myself, I'm going straight to the source. So like my bacon comes from a farm, and I know the farmer that raised that pig and slaughtered that pig and processed that pig. And I know what that pig ate, and I know where it grew up, and I know it wasn't sprayed or injected with a bunch of stuff. So I get that when I do bacon, I save that fat, and like that fat is like brain food.
I want to talk about one more thing that I found in your one sheet was about corporate co-opting of natural ancient types of products that is going on. I always wondered about that when I the thing I was reading something about stevia, and for example, natural plant, it's very sweet, and yet most of the stevia that we're buying is not that.
Right.
And then all kinds of herbs and natural plants and things. How are they doing? How are businesses kind of co-opting that, and what do people need to look for when they're getting these things?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up stevia, because in a whole other capacity, I am a part owner in a health and wellness company, and for just because I don't want to step on anybody else's toes, I won't say the name of it, but I will tell you that one of our main products is stevia. And we went to great lengths to source stevia. At one point, we were actually going to grow it, but you can't really grow it here in North America because there's so much air traffic and aerosol injection programs going on.
There's a lot of money to be made in supplements and all those things. And I'm confused about natural and not natural, and what is being, foisted on me, or what, how do you make those selections? Because there's so many choices. It's just unbelievable.
The rule of thumb that I have come to use in all cases is, if I'm going to consume something, is what I'm about to put in my mouth, is it found naturally in the state that I'm about to put it in my mouth in? Which is why I think a lot of supplements, there's a lot of issues with supplements. Like if you're going to take, I don't know, if you're going to take parsley, there's no getting around the fact that just eat some parsley versus don't take parsley capsules, because first of all, you've got a capsule, who knows what that capsule is, it's a lot of times it's just vegetable oil, but a lot of vegetable oil isn't good for you either. We mentioned stevia. Depending upon where it's grown and how it's grown, it could be being the soil that it was grown in. You need to know what additives were put in that soil. Was it sprayed with anything during the time that it was growing? And what was it sprayed with? And what were they using for weed control? What were they using for insect control? What were they, against soil additives? And then once it was harvested, how was it harvested? Was it harvested using, gas powered equipment? So now you've got, gas fumes and all. How was it stored? How was it processed? Where was it processed? So people will go, well, I'm using stevia and stevia is natural. Well, yeah, gasoline is natural if you think about it, but you shouldn't really be drinking gasoline. So just because something is natural doesn't necessarily mean it's in its natural state. And so, like I said, when I consume something, if it's in a shape or a form that isn't natural, then I'm already suspect, and I need to just ask questions like I said, where, why, how, and for what reason was this product processed, and I just need to know all that stuff. Or what you might just be taking some stevia in, but taking in that stevia, you could be taking in a whole lot of other things as well that aren't listed on the package.
Amazing that anybody lives past 25, huh?
It's almost like it's intentional. You think about it though, there's a lot of ancient text and stories and folklore and scrolls and lots of there's lots of recorded evidence that humans used to live much longer than they do now. There's even within the last several hundred years, there's accounts of people who have lived well over the age of 100. And nowadays humans are lucky if they hit 80.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that we've necessarily progressed in that regard. I think we've regressed. And look at the industry that is built up around being unhealthy. Every time that I drive past a pharmacy, the parking lots appear to be full. So there are lots of people relying on drugs and pharmaceutical products to just get through their day.
When you think about who you're encountering during the day when you're out in the world, what drugs are those people on? From antidepressants to statins to pain medications. There's so many people on so many things, and I have to say I'm very happy about this. I'm going to be 69 years old pretty soon, another week, and I'm not on any medications.
Nice. That's why you will
It's amazing to me that
you'll live to see 79 and 89 and
well
90.
maybe
Yeah, but no, I'm not
you know
on that.
I've been you know pushed, not pushed, it's been suggested that I take you know, a statin because my cholesterol is a little bit high, and I won't do it. My doctor's cool though. He goes, okay, I get it, don't worry about it. I actually have a regular old physician, you know, standard trained guy who's a little bit more open-minded than most. I can talk to him about anything. He does acupuncture, you know, so I haven't had him do that, but you know, he'll run standard tests. He's very skeptical of the medical profession. He has told me that that the hospitals are now run by MBAs, not doctors. And this is a doctor, you know, he's got the right attitude for me because
he's seen what his industry is. Yeah. And you know, I have a lot of man, I have a soft spot in my heart for three professions. I feel for teachers who just want to teach and spend a lot of time, money, and effort to become teachers, only to realize, oh my gosh, I'm a teacher in the government school system, and I'm not allowed to teach. I can't teach. I can't discipline. I can't do anything except read the script that I'm told to read. People inside the medical industry, you know, a lot of people are in there for the right reasons, only to realize once they get there, holy crap, I'm not actually allowed to get people healthy or talk to them about their you know, things that you should be being, you know, most doctors aren't even trained in nutrition, you know, or you know, water or light or exercise or any of that stuff. They're trained in, like I said, they're trained in three areas. They're trained to burn you, to drug you, or to cut you. Those are the three tools that they have in their tool belt. The third group that I have a lot of just a soft spot in my heart is for the people that have gone into like the militaries for the right reason, only to find out that, you know, again, no, I'm in this government system, and you know, I'm actually supporting these government narratives that a lot of them don't agree with. You know,
yeah, that's a tough one. You know, they're all, you know, difficult. I have a daughter who's in medical school right now, her first year, and she's, you know, grew up in my home, so she's been exposed to a lot of alternative kinds of things, and she's, you know, some of the stuff she's learning is amazing, and she loves it, and she really is that intuitive kind of a healer type personality, but she is also fascinated with science and biology, so this is what she wants to do. But she is seeing lots of things she didn't realize were the case. And just the simplest example is when they do rounds in the hospitals with the doctors, most of the patients aren't in there for one thing, or they can't come in for one thing, but they have multiple issues that are sometimes being treated separately without the other doctors knowing, but more so that one issue builds on the other, and they're not getting to the basis, which really comes down to, as she says, it's just their lifestyle is so messed up. They don't have any idea how to eat, exercise, you know, and take care of themselves. They'd never learned it. So you know what to
do with people like that. You put them in these things called hospitals where they're under shitty light, drinking shitty water, being fed shitty food, pumped full of shitty chemicals.
I was in the hospital, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. I had a really high fever. They couldn't figure out what was going on with me. They brought in a person that was a specialist in diseases and different things, and they ran a shitload of tests on me, and eventually I got better. You know, I don't know, it was basically antibiotics, so that's really what had happened, IVs of antibiotics, and I was as sick as I've ever been. And the doctor comes in, I was still feeling not great. He goes, well, you're getting better, I'm gonna send you home, because he goes, if you stay in here, it's not good. he goes, bad shit happens when you stay in these places. We got to get you out as fast. And to his credit, he was right. I mean, he said, get out of here. If you want to really get better, go home. You know.
You want to know? Here's a little interesting tidbit that I find a lot of people don't realize. You use the term antibiotic.
Yeah.
Go look up the meaning of the word biotic. Biotic means life.
Right. Right.
So that industry hands out antibiotics like candy.
Yeah.
Just change the word to what it means, anti-life.
But the thinking is, I'm not saying it's right or wrong,
Yeah.
but the thinking is we're going to kill the bad thing that's alive, not the good thing. And I don't know why they don't both go at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say, and how is that magic little pill making the distinction between good and bad?
It knows the bad stuff. It's given a little brain to attack the bad stuff.
It's maddening if it wasn't.
Yeah, but you know, it's people like you and a lot of the people I have on this show that are, you know, elevating people to question, to explore, and to make some other decisions. Now, whether there's going to be enough of us to really change, you know, how we do things, I don't know. We'll find out.
That's really that's really why we wrote the book, The Red Pill Revolution.
Yes, that's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah. We wrote here, shameless plug, the book. It really is meant to be just a field guide to kind of help navigate through just some of this insanity that we call modern day life, and it's a bit of a history lesson too, as to, you know, we try to not bring up topics without bringing them up in context, like how did we get to these points, and bringing up topics like dependency and distraction and some of these things that get used as tools against us. And so it really is the book is really it's a conversation starter. Hopefully it makes people think about things, or maybe they're already thinking about things, and maybe it gives them just another bit of validation. Goes, I'm not the only one that thought this. It's filled with memes, a lot of song lyrics and quotes and movie references, and so it's a pretty fun read.
Okay.
And man, I just if anybody out there grabs the book, I ask you as an old music lover, if you like it, the biggest compliment you could possibly give us is just pass it on to the next person who needs it. Yeah, that's been the coolest thing about launching this thing is how many people have that book and have told me my friend gave it to me. And it's like, man, that as a music guy, that makes that it gets me right here, because that's what I used to do, I still do with music. If I have good music and like you play harmonica, it's like, man, if I hear something and it's harmonica, I want to share it with you, and for the right reasons. And so, like I said, if you grab the book and you dig it and you like it, man, share it with somebody else. That's the ultimate compliment.
Thanks so much for talking to me, John, and folks.
Absolutely.
Get the book, The Red Pill Revolution. That's
and I've got a gift for your readers if they're interested. This isn't a sales pitch or anything, but put together, if you go to theredpillrevolution.com/guide, download what we call the anti-dependency suggestion guide. It's a pretty cool little guide that we put together that it just touches on 10 aspects of life. I mean, it's water, light, EMF, grounding, healthcare, sourcing, the difference between physical and digital goods, media, commercial versus private, and it kind of ends with the topic of consent. And it just gives you practical ways that you can take back a little more of your freedom and sovereignty, and just be more of a true independent individual. And it's pretty easy read, and hopefully there's some tips and some examples in there that can significantly change the way that you go through your day. So
yeah. Very good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my friend.
Much appreciation for you folks listening to The Exploding Human. Check out the website, theexplodinghuman.com, the YouTube channel, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Once again, big thanks to John Gusty. Please get his book, The Red Pill Revolution, and have a fantastic day. Thank you.